Alrighty, let's start with the mic check. So, mic check. Oh, I don't know if you'll hear the thunder, but it is loud out there. Alrighty, mic check sounds good. I'm actually going to start a few minutes early and, prepare while I do that. Yeah, all right. All right. 1 second. All right, let's start. Oh, oh, I mean, that's kind of what I wanted, but Eston is here. So he's going to say hello. We're going to start a little early. Just have a little Justin time. Yeah, my little boy. He's so cute. I don't know why he likes to lick my nose so much, but he does. All right. Justin, you're not usually so chill. You're just happy to sit here. Won't be able to paint with you here. Okay, little boy. Need to prepare. Finish preparing. All right. All right. Oh, is this work? All right. So I'm back to this painting. The reason I'm back to this painting is because I want to finish it. And I think with the zoom thing, it works properly. Oh, you can't see the painting. What am I talking about? Second. Here we are. we'll see if things work properly. If they do, that'll be that'll be cool. Camera, why are you freaking out? I don't know if y'all can hear the thunder, but jeez, it's loud out there. Okay. New gloves. Oh. If everything goes as planned, we'll see if it will. My camera, not on my face cam, this one, should zoom in while I'm painting. And then you can see more detail. So we'll see. We'll see if it goes well. That's the plan. I do need my liner brush though. 1 second. And then if I happen to finish this, I'll move on to the other painting, no problem. Alrighty. Okay. Hold on. All right. Let's get started. Actually, before I get started, I'm going to clean off this brush too. Just saturated with yellow, and I need some other colors as well. And while I normally don't mind dirty brushes, and I barely clean my brushes while I paint, and that when you go to like the extreme ends of the color, it starts being kind of a pain. So it's just easier to clean off sometimes. All right. All right. So yeah, I think this brush will be the one I start with. All right. Fingers crossed this works properly and that this paint is dry. Didn't have Yeah. All right. Okay. There we go. This is the whole thing. Let's see if it works. 1 second. There we are. It's not perfect because it's centered, and I haven't figured a way of like uncentering it. The problem with it is if I don't center it, um, because the brush moves, I don't know exactly how to do it. So we'll see. It might be a little jarring. It might need some tweaking, but I mean, that's pretty cool. Oh well, I just got some paint on my desk. All right. So, oh wow, it can follow all the way out to here, huh? That's right. I mean, that makes sense. A little jarring, I think, but you know, it's a work in progress. This tool. So, it's a new thing. I can tweak it. There are ways of adjusting it and tweaking it, maybe making it a little smoother, but now it automatically zooms in and follows, which is such a huge deal because if I were to manually zoom in, um, I would forget to, follow 90% of the time, and I'd be painting off screen so often. I think maybe I need to adjust. I mean, not maybe, definitely need to adjust some elements here. But we'll see. It's really hard to know what it'll be like until you start using it, you know? Make sure everything's in focus too. See. Ah. The zoom and the focus are completely unrelated in this instance. Oh, down the wrong way. Okay. All right. All right, 1 second here. Okay, I'm seeing some things that need adjusting for sure. Like, this is too bouncy. It needs to be more steady. And I think the zoom might be a little too much as well. So maybe change it so it doesn't move as quickly. Like the tracking is more generalized. And then also, because if I do this, it shouldn't bounce like that. So that, and then maybe I can do it so I can decide which direction to offset it. And also it's 2.5 zoom right now. Maybe just 2 or 1.5 would be better. But otherwise, I think it's cool. Once I have this tool completed, like, you know, worked out all the kinks to the best of my ability, which are very minimal in this instance, I will share it. I don't know quite how to share on GitHub, but I will share it online for anyone who wants. Welcome to use it. and hopefully someone can take it and develop it and improve it. Because I mean, I have ideas on how to improve it, but I do not have the skills to develop those improvements. It's so funny because the technically speaking, the brush isn't in focus. The painting is, but because some of the painting is so, like, we'll say blurry or fuzzy, it doesn't look like it's in focus either. It actually is. It's kind of funny to me. Hey, Omar. Welcome. How you doing? Sorry if you messaged and I missed it for a while. The chat is right by my camera. I might have to move that because I didn't notice it. Anyways, how are you doing today? Ooh, I don't know if you all could see the light flicker, but it's nerve-wracking. You doing fine? Good. Glad to hear. How to avoid muddy colors? Good question. Um, I don't have a good answer for you. The reason I don't have a good answer for you is because I often use a lot of muddy colors. So I think the trick is to use muddy colors in the right places and then use, you know, very use not muddy colors everywhere else, which isn't a great answer. I recognize that. Um, as far as I'd say, as far as like dealing with the oil paint itself, how to avoid it turning muddy. Um, I would say don't like You can paint wet over wet, that's not a problem, but if you keep going back and forth over and over on the same area, that's when it starts to get all like it all blends, which might be what you want, but if that's creating muddy colors, then obviously that's not what you want, so don't do that in particular, I would say. Um, so if you're painting wet into wet, what you have to do is kind of develop the discipline of putting down 1 or 2 strokes, wiping it off, grabbing more color, and repeating. Sorry, now I can see the chat a little better. Um, if it's wet into wet, if that's your issue. If your issue isn't painting wet into wet, but you're still getting muddy colors, um, then it's obviously a different issue, and my question would be, I guess, what do you mean by muddy colors? Um, I think I think one thing that obviously I don't know you like you know your skill level and what you do, but one thing I would say is that a lot of people um, one thing that would benefit a lot of people with color is practicing getting matching colors because um, i- if you're not matching your colors right, then you're guessing, and if you're guessing, it will influence your other colors, which will throw everything off, and then eventually, like, it snowballs type of thing is, um, so and sometimes the way our vision works, it's so bizarre because color um, is so affected by the colors around it. So saturation, value, all those things are wildly affected by all the colors around it. Um, so that can influence why it feels muddy. The other thing I will say for muddy colors, I've heard, and this might be a different issue you're having, but this is another art teacher who does YouTube videos, uh, came up with this one, and I think he's mostly correct. um, but a painting can feel muddy when the light colors and the dark colors are all warm, and it'll feel chalky if everything's cool. Usually you want to have a light source that's either cool or warm and the shadows be the opposite. That's a drastically oversimplification, but there's some truth to it. I'll put it that way. So yeah, I don't know if that helps. If you have more specific issues or more specific color, like muddy color questions, you're welcome to ask. I use very saturated colors for my palette, so I don't mind if they kind of get a little muddy while I paint because I usually need to tone them down. Usually, not always. So avoid white and black? Not at all. Not at all. I use white and black all the time, but they do mute your colors. White and black will make your colors, they will, make them less saturated. If if you need very saturated colors, then yes, but then you need to find pigments that can do the job that you need them to. But I use white and black in my palette all the time. So no, I wouldn't say avoid them. There's also very little difference between mixing your own black and using black out of the tube. Essentially, there's no real difference there. Um, other than, I mean, there is some difference, but it's not very big. The So yeah, it just kind of depends. it also a lot of it depends on how you paint. If you're using a lot of transparencies or not, what are your, what are the pigments that you're using? So what is your palette? Like all those things can influence, you know, how, I mean, all of those things will influence how your painting comes out and whether or not your colors, if things come out muddy or not. I would I would also something I would check. I know these aren't like the most definitive answers, but there's so many variables that it's hard for me to give like super definitive answers. I will say something to check would be check what your paintings look like if you that feel muddy, the ones that feel muddy. Check what they look like when you turn them, black and white, like use a filter or something. Are your values good or is it just your is it just the color or are your values also needing some work? Because it might not be an issue of your color, but rather the values. Hey, Cookie Monster, welcome. How are you doing today? So I'm trying a new tool and it's not perfect, but it will zoom in and track my brush. So, like I said, it's not perfect. I can already see some things that might need some fixing, but it's a start, you know? So yeah, Omar Comics. I guess another question I would ask you is, are your colors muddy in is this in traditional or is this digital? Because when you're working traditionally, you have to deal with the pigments. When you're working digitally, it's all color choices, so that's also a bit of a difference. I'm assuming traditionally, but you can get muddy colors with digital as well. I have automatic zoom on my cam. Yeah, I do. It's a little Python program to follow my brush. It follows the tape, of the neon color that like is not going to be in my painting. But it's good. I can see some issues with it that I need to work on, but like it's still pretty good, you know, and lets you get closer view of the painting. Um, I would also ask Omar, if you're doing traditional painting, what kind of paints are you using? Because you'll have potentially different issues if you're using acrylics than you will if you're using um, oils. Thanks, Cookie Monster. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, like I said, it's not perfect. It needs some work, and I don't know. Maybe I'll get some notes later, about like what improvements can be made to it. But yeah, I think it's a good start. How are you doing, Cookie Monster? I think I'm gonna have to change it a little to not zoom in quite as much. I think it zooms in too much right now. But anyways, that's a nitpick thing, like, that I is a minor change to do. So, for this part, I'm going to, um that's, like, the background color, I'm gonna cover it up because you're, like, seeing through the a little bit through the jar, so it creates some weird effects, yeah. See, I think one thing I don't know, like, because it's anyways, that's enough about the tool, honestly, I don't need to keep talking about it. I'll keep thinking about it, though. And anyone who has ideas is welcome to message me privately about it so that I can improve it. So what are you up to, Cookie Monster? Did you finish that large painting you were working on? I know you mentioned you were working on it. I know. I think you said you were almost finished with it. So you're um you're almost finished with the large one. You're satisfied with the results? That's good. Glad to hear that. One second, I have to check this real quick. Sorry. I just need to make sure it's nothing important right now. Okay, that can wait. All right. Just have to make sure nothing important, or urgent rather, not important, urgent. So, um, yeah. You already started with 2 new large paintings? Nice. Good for you, man. Oh, wish I had the time. I, unfortunately, I haven't. I've been painting a little more though, but still very much less than I would rather be doing it. But oh well, don't always get to choose that. Class is fun, but it's also a pain in the ass. It's amazing how much detail there is in things when you start actually like paying attention to it. You would think that's obvious, but you don't. I don't know. Maybe you do, but I think sometimes I don't like really notice all the detail in certain things until you like really start to study it to paint it. Oh, look at that. I can buy AI viewers. Hooray. Don't understand these silly bots trying to sell me AI viewers, but whatever. I'll ban them in a second. There we go. And it's like stormy and raining here, but also warm. Really an annoying combination. Uh, Out with it. Let's take a quick Dresden break. Dresden, baby boy. Oh, sorry. I hit my chair and startled you. Didn't mean to startle you. Meant to wake you up, but not startle you. Oh, you're sweet. He was asleep. He was clearly like out. Usually I don't harass my cats too much, but don't mind doing it a little bit because these little devils, we'll call them, harass me all the time. They wake me up in the morning and all kinds of stuff. Worth it, don't get me wrong. I'm not like, but yeah. For anyone who doesn't know, this is Dresden. I have 3 cats. This is my only boy cat though. And we have a dog as well. But this is Dresden, named after Harry Dresden, the wizard from the book series. He is very sleepy right now. And he likes to lick my nose for some reason. I don't know why. Dresden is so cute. Yeah, he is. He yeah, he's adorable. He very much is a ginger cat. Like he does all the dumb things ginger cats do, but he's very cute. Cookie Monster says I'm thinking of getting a cat too when I move houses. That's great. I will say, I know it's a lot. I would recommend possibly 2 cats. I know it's a lot more than 1 cat. However, the only reason is because um, they can, keep each other busy and, you know, um, keep each other occupied, especially if you're out of the house a lot, stuff like that. Yeah. But if you can't, you can't. It's not a requirement. Cats don't have to have another cat, but it is nice for them, I think. Especially if you can the thing is, especially if you can get them both when they're the same age roughly or something like that, then they can be closer with each other um than if they are, because sometimes you get a like if you get a cat, some cats don't do well with other animals. But if you get another animal with them, when they're kittens, they get used to it more. But like I said, if you can't, you can't. It's not a requirement. It's just a potential suggestion. And I will also say this. Um, oh, I don't know. I I'm trying to think. I guess there's not a real difference between boy cats or girl cats, technically speaking, you know? I don't know. Obviously, you know, Dresden is, the only boy cat I have, but, I don't know. I think if I've had great cats that were female as well, so it's not like it's only one or the other. However, if I did get another cat, I think I'd lean towards getting another boy. They just seem to be easier to, but that could just be Dresden, you know? So, I did there was, um there was this cat that we were looking at possibly adopting. He was just too old, but, um, he was he was huge, and I originally wanted a cat that was very big, so I wanted Dresden to be, like, double the size he is, but he is the size that he is. He's very long, but, he's not a huge cat, but, you know, that's a different story. Alright. So, I thought this painting was way more done than it is right now because one of the things I did, I actually wet sanded the background, and that ended up, like, putting a lot of stuff over everything, which is fine. Um, but yeah. Um, Cookie Monster says, "I think there is a cat breed that can get it the size of a shepherd dog." I don't know about that. There are some bigger cats for sure. I mean, Maine Coon cats are known for being large cats, but I don't know if that not that size though. There might be like some exceptions or like world record holding animals, but that's not the normal, you know? Pretty much says, "Oh, a very small shepherd." Then yes, yes, that maybe that I could imagine a very small one. No, but Maine Coons are really cool cats. Um, I did want a Maine Coon, and I thought Winter or Winnie, one of our cats might be a Maine Coon, but she's actually, she's not. She's mostly a, oh, what is it? It's a similar cat, but it's, uh, generally like snow cat, I think, generally considered. She's not a purebred or anything, but just, like, genetically or whatever. Um, but, she is, um, yeah, not a Maine Coon. All of our cats were adopted. That's the other thing. I really can't bring myself to, like, buy buy pets really, like pure breed. I don't know. Can't bring myself to do it. Not when there's so many pets that need adopting, and just like we don't need, I don't know, just don't need to be breeding more. Not like that, at least. I did adopt a cat that was a what is it called? Oh, I'm gonna forget the name of it. Um, they're cats that have spots, and they're like um 2 or 3 generations removed from like wildcats, like they're bred with wildcats specifically. She didn't have super well defined dots though, and that was the issue. She was given up for adoption because she didn't have super well defined dots and her litter didn't. So she wasn't profitable anymore. So they surrendered her and her litter to be adopted. Her litter got adopted instantly, practically, but she did not, so I adopted her. But that was a long time ago. It was a very, very sweet cat. Um, very sweet, very loving, but also surprisingly territorial and vicious. I'm having trouble. One second. Having trouble um, identifying this color. One second. Let me see if I can. It might be too small for this. Yeah, it's kind of small. Let me see. Okay, pretty close to what I thought. Not close to what I mixed, but close to what I thought. Unfortunately, the problem with paint is that it doesn't have dials on it. If you're like, I want to make it, brighter, or raise the value, but keep everything the same. Otherwise, doesn't have that. You have to manually do it. See if this hits the spot. Yeah. Hey, my creative disorder. Welcome. He's- he- My creative disorder says that's why I could never do it. That is way too complicated for my colorblind eyes. Do you have do you actually have a degree of color blindness? I know some people, even though they're slightly colorblind, they can, they still paint or, do stuff. Or, but some people also just mean it jokingly. Anyways, how are you doing? It's been a while. Hope you're doing well. Everybody should check out my creative disorder, by the way. Really cool YouTube channel, really fun videos. Highly recommend it if you're a creative person who wants to see cool content and also what it's like to, you know, live a life pursuing creative endeavors. I know there's this one artist who's like literally partially colorblind. His girlfriend has to tell him certain colors what they are, but he works digitally because of that. Karim Karimi, welcome. Let me know if I mispronounce any names, by the way. Feel free to correct me. Good job, realistically look. Thank you, appreciate that. How are you doing, Karimi? Are you, oh, I'm bad with names, so I apologize if I did forget. I don't remember you being in the chat before. Is this your first time here? If so, welcome. And are you an artist? A lot of people who come by are, so I always ask. My creative disorder says, yeah, I just returned from a 26-day journey around Europe, spreading my stuff. Oh yeah, very cool. Stickers, etc. Yeah, while traveling with my family a bunch of videos coming really soon. That's awesome. Looking forward to them. I yeah, I don't really do as much street art as you do. I have a weird um I always have wanted to do street art, but at the same time, like I don't want to do street art um, because I always want it to be like, you know, something that'll last and so on. Yeah. If you put red and green side by side, I don't see the difference. The same with gray and pink. You see colors, but sometimes you don't know what is the color you're looking at. Oh, that's yeah. Oh, I forget the different color things, but if you can see some colors but not others, there's a very common like what's it called? Um, you know, disorder for that. So you might have that because not being able to see like to distinguish very nuanced color is one thing, but like very drastic like that, that's usually a actual color disorder, a visual disorder. Sorry to hear that. That sucks. Although you can probably I don't know if you can do some cool things with it. Probably helps with your uh what's it called? Values though. Probably really good at seeing values. But yeah, that makes sense why you would want to work more digitally then because like the digital tools have a lot of information which can really help you distinguish those things. I totally understand that. All right, put the Zoom one away for a minute. Get a different brush. You know the dot test where you okay, this my creative disorder is saying, you know the dot test where you're supposed to see the numbers? I don't. Yes, exactly. I use number values to understand color as I work as a graphic designer for the last 20 years. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, that totally makes sense. But you also do some is it because you use markers that you feel more comfortable doing traditional stuff with like markers? Because I've seen your stuff, with your markers. Um, so I'm just curious, like, do the markers also achieve a similar, you know, also like do a similar function? Hold on, let me check my phone just went off. I need to make sure it's nothing urgent. Um, okay, it's not. All right. Sorry, just gotta keep checking right now. So the kind of on the same subject of color, being able to see color. There's some people. So we all have three cones in our eyes. There are some people who have four, and that supposedly lets them see a ton of other colors that, like, regular people can't see. At least in theory, right? But in reality, it turns out that's not the case. They can see a slightly kind of variation of the colors that we see, and that's about it. And it's like, man, you would think if they genetically have like an extra cone in their eye, they'd have like superhuman vision or something. It's like, nope, barely better, barely different than what we have. Everybody else has. Like the difference, my understanding is the difference is the way that like people can kind of see I think it's like you can see like a purple that's kind of a blue red. Obviously, purple is blue red, but like you can kind of see both colors at the same time. You can kind of see that with green being yellow and blue. That's like the big difference, which doesn't seem like a huge difference to me. Mm, my creative disorder says, yes, I mix acrylics for my artworks and do it for my paintings, but acrylic markers are the way to go for me as they give me 70 color variations with no need to color mix, where I end up with excess of paint or lack of it. I see what you're saying. Yeah, well, when the way you paint, the artwork you make, um, yeah, it's very different. You layer a lot of flat colors, and so that's, yeah, definitely very very different. I can see that. If you ever got into gouache, you would have the same issue. Worse, actually. Gouache, the color shift that happens when it dries is horrible. So it can make it really difficult um, to match colors. So if you need to like fill in a block of with a flat color, if you don't mix up enough of that color, you're screwed. You hate gouache from your days in school? That's fair. I like gouache, but it's definitely got some issues. Although I don't have trauma around it from like school, so there is that, you know. I mean, I'm sure I used it in school. I just don't remember it as being a like it wasn't like I had like specific class of like today we're doing gouache. It was probably just like in whatever kindergarten or whatever where like they gave us paint, it was probably gouache, but I don't know that. My creative disorder says most horrible days were spent coloring in art class with them, though I was the most creative student in the class. Teacher even sent me to a um, empty auditorium so you could work alone in peace, and you got a 5, which is an A plus in school. Oh, that's good. There you go. Yeah. Trying to think. We didn't really like. Yeah, didn't really have art in school. So I did all my art, uh, you know, either outside of class or in class, but when I wasn't supposed to be. There was a time where like I didn't even bother bringing like 90% of the what's it called of the books that I was supposed to or my notebooks or anything. I just brought sketchbooks to class, sat in the back, and was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna draw and do that." At the time, I was more interested in like comic book type of art, which is perfect for drawing at school. well, not real art, like sports and math, English had basic stuff. Oh, in your school? Yeah, I think we had something like that at one point briefly, but then it was gone. But yeah, the creative stuff is always the first to get cut, unfortunately, as we all know. I think we had something that was like some kind of like drafting thing where we had to like make um I vaguely remember like doing like I don't know what you would call it, like geometric shapes where you have to like draft it and get it accurate, but like, not no anatomy, nothing like that. Like it was just like I can't even remember if it was like abstract objects or like really I'm drawing a complete blank, unfortunately. But yeah, I remember doing something like that in school at one point, but then that was it. That was only for like I think a year or something, and then it was nothing. That was gone. No. So I know I talked about warm and cool shadows. In this instance, the color of the glove is affecting the shadow color. And that happens a lot when when you're painting. Something to keep an eye out for anytime you're painting um, anything really, but people, you see it a lot when their skin is reflecting onto onto itself or other things, and it gives very warm shadows. Even if the rest of the shadows are very cool, right next to the skin, it'll be warm. That's just something to keep an eye out for in painting for anyone who isn't familiar with that effect. Hold on. My creative resources. I like how if you can see that little dot needs to be there. I'm 43 and I would need a magnifying glass. Do you have ultra zoom superpowers? No, I don't. It's amazing that you can do this. Oh, thank you. No, actually, about a year ago, I actually got glasses for the first time. I don't wear them a lot because I only need it for like very, very fine detail, and everything else, it just kind of gets in my way. So when I'm wearing them, I literally like chat looks blurry to me. So they kind of get in the way sometimes. But yeah, the glasses have started. The age, it hits us all. My what's it called? My self-portrait is drawing, and I'm thinking maybe tomorrow or this weekend I'm going to try and add the gold leaf to it, and then I can get back to finish. I can, finish that one. The reason I thought about it was because I'm wearing my glasses in that one. It just made me think about that. Yeah, I do have those like, the what's it called? Those like glasses that you can wear like for magnifying glasses, for like the super detail, but I almost never need that. Where's the reference image from? Um, I shot the reference image. I um this is this is all my stuff. I grabbed a cutting board, a knife, the gloves and everything, and I put it on my counter and I turned the lights off and I have like a light box, and set it up and took photos. Yeah, just did that. Same thing for my other, I'm also doing another still life and I did the same thing. I bought a toaster, um, and I set it up in my bathroom and you know, set the lights up and everything and just did that. Yeah, I prefer to it's always better to take the photo reference myself if I can. can't always do that. A lot of my paintings are from images, um, from the internet, but, that's when I need models. A lot of times for stuff that if I can model myself, I'll model, myself, and if I can't model myself, um, then I'll get images online. But, for stuff like this, it's like, well, I don't have a other than, taking the time to do it, I don't have a good excuse, for not doing it. So I guess I kind of have to, right? So I just started doing that. I have different ideas for like some more still lifes, and it's just a matter of like getting the time to do that. And what do you mean? What are you saying? Holy shit, really cool. My creative for anyone who doesn't know, my creative disorder does YouTube videos, and this guy has a drone and all this, and like all these other stuff, and he's like really into photography. And it's not about the toys that you have. But I've seen him like set up shots, like these really cool artistic shots where he's like doing a mural, and and he's testing it out, and like testing, like in the woods, testing out the paint on the wall and all this stuff. Yeah, he does all this work and all this prep work. He did a while ago, he did a merch where he was made like a pillow and went through all this process. Yeah. But thank you. I do appreciate it. I'm just pointing out that like you do some really cool stuff with your videos and your art process. And I also know my creative disorder. I also know you're really like when it comes to photography. I know you've got chops. I've seen the camera review and everything. Yeah. Like a couple of years ago, started getting into cameras, and only recently, like I learned what what's it called, like f stops are and all that stuff. I didn't know any of that before. Cool that you make your own setup, that you take your own photos. I would guess that this is from a jelly crime scene. It kind of is. All all the so like the traditional still life paintings I find kind of boring, if I'm being honest. So, um, I was trying to figure out like how do I, if I'm doing still lifes and I don't want them to be boring, how do I do still lifes that aren't boring? So I started, that was the inspiration for this and my other still life ideas. And someone mentioned this, and it kind of, it's really true. Someone said it kind of reminds them of the opening of Dexter, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I get that. That's that really is kind of the feeling of it." Yes, Dexter. Yeah, 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 exactly. So I can show you the other one that I'm working on. It's drying now. I have to wait for it to dry before I can keep working on it because there's like an in between stage that it's not good to work on paintings. Like if they're wet, I can work on them, and if they're dry, I can work on them. But if they're like too much in the middle, um, it's not a it's not a good place to work on them. That's the one thing that's kind of frustrating. There's like this in between stage. But yeah, I have this painting of a happy little toaster. Um, you know, that's the other painting I'm working on right now. It's still life. But yeah, I think it's basically a theme of a series of still lifes I'm going to be working on because I think it's funny. Like, this to me is funny, and it takes something that's like, a boring still life, and it makes it interesting to me. So yeah. Emily Anderson, hey, welcome. First time chatter, how are you doing? For anyone who doesn't know, I am streaming on YouTube and Twitch, so I have two chats running, just FYI. How am I? I'm doing all right, I guess. How are you doing? I should turn this into a thing like serial killer stuff, but instead of blood, it's jam. Instead of a gun, it's Nerf, and so on. My creative disorder. Yeah, that's like I said, it's a series of still lifes that I'm going to be doing. So it's going to be a lot of different things, kind of like that. Like it's just objects that the whole idea is it's still life, so it's paintings of objects, and there's absolutely no violence or anything in them, and yet it's all implied kind of thing. Uh, Emily says, I'm good. What do you think your stream? Oh, no. Uh, my stream isn't missing anything. It's perfect. I'm just assuming that you're trying to market something. So, no, thank you. My creative disorder says, yes, yes, yes. Yeah, no, like I said, that's to me, it's something that I think is interesting. So, that's why I'm going to do a whole series of it. But I'm glad other people appreciate the vision. Thank you. So eventually I'll do some bigger ones too. These are very small. This isn't, I mean, relatively speaking, this is a 9 by 12. I do want to do larger ones, but it's a time issue sometimes to do larger paintings. That's too much. Someone was asking about muddy colors at the beginning of the stream, and I forgot to mention something. Um, that is a very common suggestion to people when they have muddy colors as a as a solution to it. That is don't mix on the canvas, mix in your palette. And there's some truth to that, although you will still be mixing on your canvas as well. But that's for later. Worry about that later. It's hard to paint in gloves. Does it add anything to the process? No, it takes away from the process, in my opinion. I hate wearing gloves. But let me explain. I'll explain why. So I hate wearing these gloves. And there's there's a couple reasons for it. One, it is for my safety, but that's really the secondary thing because the reality is that most paint and most stuff isn't as dangerous as people think it is, especially not through skin, right? As long as you don't have like cuts and stuff, right? Like obviously, if you have open wounds, different story. But most modern paint isn't really dangerous in that sense. Um, it's um, it can be because like if you don't wash your hands properly and then you eat, that's another issue, of course. And this is regardless of like whether or not it's acrylic or regardless of if it's acrylic or oil. Some people think oils are inherently more dangerous. They are not. But here's the reason. I take the gloves off. I have completely clean hands now, right? And then I can pick up, oh, the sleepy boy. The thing is, he's not always a sleepy boy. Sometimes he's a dumb boy who gets into stuff, and then I need to have clean hands immediately because he's doing something he's not, or he, you know, got something on him that he's not supposed to, and I need to clean him or whatever. So I want to have clean hands as fast as possible. I'm also careful with things with fumes because cats are more susceptible to that stuff. But yeah, that's really the big thing. I want to be able to like have clean hands if I need it. But I really don't like painting with gloves on. I really hate it, actually. Okay, I'll put you back down. I'll put you back down. But yeah, that's all. I find it surprisingly, it is surprising um, how much they distract, honestly. Hey, Des, good to see you. How are you? So yeah, that's about it, really. Um, like I said, most modern paints, in theory, and of course this is theory, the pigments aren't ground so fine that they can like be absorbed through your skin. In theory, there are some brands who are way more focused on that than others. Um, and of course, I'm specifically talking about oil paint right now. Um, Not, I don't know about like other mediums specifically. Um, so yeah, Des says way too many people come in here to advertise this. I know it's weird. I don't get it, but whatever. I get a lot of spam on, especially on Twitch for some reason. But yeah, I do try and reuse the gloves quite a few times so that I'm not like, you know, just tossing a ton of uh, gloves all the time. Um, yeah. By the way, I should mention I have about 15 minutes before I have to go. Unfortunately, I have a hard out time today, but yeah. Yeah, oh, absolutely. You can just ban them. It's clearly a bot account or something. My creative disorder says, yeah, I get dirty from wrist to elbow. And that's the stuff I need to feel I'm alive in the digital age. Yeah. I hike, I play stickers just to prove the world that I was here. Yeah. So, oh, My Creative Disorder. You should check out, if you haven't seen it, there's a documentary. You might find it interesting. I don't know if a documentary is the right word for it, but it's a documentary style video movie called Bomb, like explosion, like Bomb It, I think it's called. If I remember correctly, it's about different, like the history of street art through like different places, different at different times, and so on. I think you might find it interesting, um, if you haven't already seen it. But yeah, I've never been a very messy painter. I mean, you can see all the paint on my hands is actually, oops, all the paint on my hands is actually from when I moved the and picked up the wet painting. But that's on the gloves, a little bit of paint. I don't get a lot of paint on me generally. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've had mistakes. Um, there's a glass version of this that has like a coil inside that you clean your brushes in. I dropped the whole thing open on the floor once. That was gross and awful. Um, but so obviously I get, you know, dirty, but I don't generally, I don't get a lot of paint on me. That documentary is good. Yeah, you've seen it. I figured you'd seen it, but in case you hadn't, I thought I'd mention it. Yeah. Um, so yeah. So I've never been one of those painters that's like covered in paint, but I still love the tactile feeling of painting with real paint versus painting digital. When I when I first started, I would paint digitally, and I was way better at painting digitally than I was at painting with real mediums. And then, real paint was so difficult to deal with. And then over time, it flipped, and now when I go back to painting digitally, when I try, it's so difficult. Digital is so much harder. It feels like you feel I should say I feel so disconnected from it compared to painting with brushes. Um, digital sketching not as bad, but painting, oh, it feels so disconnected. Like, there's just paint. It's just like with real brushes and everything. It just the tactile response of everything is so good compared to like digital. My creative this says me neither. I started to drop paint on me just to feel like an artist. Fair enough, fair enough. I do get that. I do have all when you see me, when I stream, I almost always wear the same clothes because I do have my painting clothes because eventually they'll get a little dirty and so on. So like the clothing I wear is like these are my painting clothes, so I don't have to worry about it. And also all my painting clothes are usually like dark colors because I mean I generally wear dark colors, but dark neutral colors because you don't want the reflected light of your clothes to influence the painting, or I don't, I should say. You know, I'm I want to make sure that I'm not, wearing something that will distort the perception of the color because that is a thing that can happen. I have been looking. I do want a that is that is next level. No, I've gone plein air painting and uh, like I could not match my colors because of the reflection from the sky, and ever since then I'm like I'm just caught, I just it's something I'm aware of. So I try to take like, neutral colors, especially, and dark colors all work better for that. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna say I'm blanking. I thought I had something, but totally forgot it now. Oh well. Oh yeah, I remember you talked about putting paint on your clothes. Um, what's his name? Jeremy Mann. Uh, he would I don't know if he still does this, but in one of his videos where he showed like his paint process, he would buy packs of like um white t-shirts, like cheap white t-shirts, and he would just wear them when he paints and use his shirts instead of like a rag. And when they got too full of paint, he would just take them off and toss them and put on a new one. That was like his thing for a while. Um, yeah, don't know how practical that is, but you know, I mean, very cheap t-shirts are, cotton shirts do kind of fill the same thing as like cotton rags, I guess. So in a way, sure, I suppose. But it's funny because in the video he's using a brayer, so he does the brayer and then he just like wipes it on his shirt. I don't know. I don't know if that like I don't know how real that is. That comes off like it might have been a little performative, or like for for the mystique of the artist. But whatever. And maybe not. I don't know. I have thought about buying a what's it called? Like a painting apron, so that way I can just have something that that I can wear when I paint, and then I would probably splatter some paint on it just to be like, yeah, I'm a real artist, quote unquote. you know, just to I guess feel like a real artist. I need a bigger brush for this. I don't have a bigger brush right now. That's clean. Or the other thing, there's I think he's a comic book artist or illustrator who goes to Comic Con, like different conventions, and he's always wearing a suit. Like that could be the other thing. Like do my whole streams like in a three-piece suit. Just for the performance of it, not like because like I definitely don't want to really wear that, but this is all like nonsense that I'm not really going to do. Obviously, I don't care that much, except for the apron that I might do because I do want a painting apron, but that's I feel like that's a normal thing to have. Yep, people have prejudices. What a real artist is with paint splatters. You're not really an artist. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, so okay, I do have to go soon, but so are you familiar with Kentucky Fried Chicken? Yeah, most people are, KFC, right? The guy, the mascot of KFC, Colonel Sanders, wears a white suit. The reason he wears a white suit was because the marketing behind that originally was like their kitchens are so clean he can go back into the kitchen area and wear a white suit. Like that was the whole idea. Like their cooking and everything is so clean that he can wear a white suit even in the kitchen. That was the thing. They also had a different cooking technique before he sold the company, and then they completely changed it and ruined it apparently. But yeah, so yeah, there's always ways of like marketing things, in certain ways. When I went to what's it called, Portrait Society. There's this one artist. She did a demo, and the way she paints, she when she paints, she mixes all the paint she's going to use, like all the colors and stuff. She pre-mixes it on her palette. So she'll put down her colors and then mix out like lines of mixed colors for what she's planning on painting. Um, and I told her, uh, don't ever watch me paint because I'll probably drive you nuts the way I don't handle any of that, like that. Barry, welcome. How you doing? I have bad news, Barry. I'm going to be ending stream very, very soon. But thank you for stopping by. I do appreciate it. All right. I think I'm going to have to call it a day. Unfortunately, I knew I was going to have to end early today. I have an appointment uh, in a little bit that I don't have to get ready for it too much, but I do have to do it. Oh, hey, Barry, there was an ad before you joined. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm actually ending stream right now. She's a bot, that Barry. That's who that is. Don't worry. But yeah, I'm so sorry. Unfortunately, I'm ending stream right now. I have an appointment in like 10 minutes that I have to get ready for somewhat. Um, so yeah. My creative disorder says thanks for the stream. Oh, thank you. Thanks for stopping by. Everybody I highly recommend checking out my creative disorder on YouTube. He has a lot of really cool videos. There he says, "Oh, it's all right. I get to see how the painting turned out, anyways." Yeah, it's turning out pretty well. Something to show you before I go real quick. I need to adjust it a little, but I have this new thing where because it tracks like the color of on the brush, so it zooms in. So now I can paint detail, and it zooms in all over and tracks it. I still need to adjust some elements of it, but it's a good start for a little plugin thing. So yeah. Anyways, have a good rest of your week, everybody, and I will be back on Sunday. So Bye for now.